here at the Australian Strength Conditioning International Conference on Applied Strength Conditioning, and I'm here with Matt Barr. Matt, tell us about your current job and how you got started there.
I'm currently a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Manitoba in Canada, where I oversee all the varsity sports there, but the primary emphasis on football. Probably earlier this year, an opening came up and they were looking for a strength and conditioning coach, and for a long time I'd always said there was only two jobs in Canada that I ever really wanted to do. One was to be the strength and conditioning coach with our men's national rugby team, which I was doing at that time. And the other one was to work with a football team at the University of Manitoba, because it was my alma mater and it's my home province. And I always thought it was something I could make a big influence on with that sport. So chance to be back near family and a chance to work with the Bison football team really attracted me to coming back to the University of Manitoba. So I interviewed for the job and they made me an offer, and after that I just headed back there.
Okay. And previously, what about how did you get to be the head of the running the program for rugby in Canada?
It was kind of a long process actually, and I played rugby myself. I played on our under-23 national team, and so I came through as an athlete, and our kind of academy that was based there, I trained there as an athlete, but that was sort of became kind of a downward spiral for me with concussions, that I was getting one major one per year, and it was getting to the point where I had to look at actually like giving up the sport. So when I was 25, I retired from rugby, and immediately just started focusing on strength conditioning. And the university where I was at doing my master's degree, the actual coach of the women's sevens national team worked there. So that coach was kind enough to invite me to be the strength conditioning coach for the women's sevens team. So I did that for a couple years and then stopped working with any Rugby Canada programs for 1 year when I was working at York University. And then I got an opportunity to work at the Canadian Sport Institute in Victoria, and half my job there would be working as an assistant with the men's rugby program, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So I left York, went out there to do that, and after a year they reposted for the head of S&C, so I applied for the job and got it, and then I had been doing it ever since then, up until I left.
And what do you see as the big difference between the American or Canadian football, American football style training and the rugby guys in your experience, or how you've had to change, or what do you like about either one?
In some ways, it's just a little bit simpler with American football, because every position only has one or two things that they really need to do. So it's just knowing what those one or two things are and just really drilling those all the time. So rugby it's just a little bit more diverse with the amount of training that you do, but there's actually not too many things you'll do in football training that you wouldn't do in rugby training in some capacity. It'll be the odd little things to do with like linemen and specific skill sets they do, but it's not it's actually not too diverse. So sort of traditional American football or Canadian football training is just sort of like Bill Starr method. Everyone used to power clean, bench press, and squat, and you keep drilling that all the time, and it's pretty good. It's good fun, and that's what it's kind of based around. I mean, that influenced me a lot of what I did when I worked with rugby training. So the way I do it personally, they're actually not too dissimilar. You just get a little bit more time in the weight room. Actually, you get a lot more time in the weight room with football, and that's, as a strength coach, that's great.
All right. Thanks very much, Matt.
Cheers.